Yes, Ernie, what's your question?
Is it a coincidence that the colors of the chakras are the same as white light going through a prism? We talked about it last class, Viv G. Roy, Viv being violet, indigo, blue, green, and then white.
Well, first of all, if you go to about, so the question is it coincidence that the chakras are the same colors as light going through a prism? Well, I don't believe in coincidences to start off with. But I gotta say, if you go to 10 different experts on chakras, you might have 10 different interpretations of the colors of the various chakras. For example, the fourth chakra in some people's things is green, some it's pink, and some it's blue.
Yeah, they might be different colors, but essentially the same colors.
Yeah, the same colors. Yes, so I would have to say that there isn't any coincidence in that. I think that literally the way the light works on the three-dimensional plane is the same way the chakras work. So I don't think there's any mystical coincidence there. I think it's a part of sacred geometry in a different way. I hope that answers your question. It's kind of vague.
No, it does. And it was
after all, we're just crystallized light ourselves, so there you go.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes?
A friend of mine, they tore some cartilage, their labrum in their shoulder, had a rolling fracture and a chip off the glenoid, whatever that is in your shoulder. Now he has to get surgery, and I was wondering what kind of herbal formulas or supplements would you recommend?
Oh, okay, so basically, let's take a giant step backwards. The question is, there was an injury in the shoulder. He's torn some ligaments, bones, etc. The actual bones and ligaments are almost inconsequential in this. It doesn't matter where the injury is. So the first and most significant thing that you would use is arnica, homeopathically.
Not just for pain?
It helps for pain, but it also helps for healing. Now, homeopathic arnica will work, but I prefer a product called Traumeel, about 5-to-1. But if I didn't have Traumeel around, I'd certainly use homeopathic arnica itself.
How do you spell Traumeel?
Traumeel is Traumaeel. Traumeel, it's right there. She's got some in her kit. So Traumeel, every once in a while in your clinical practice, you're going to come across something that's close to magical, and it's one of them. It's probably one of the best first aid remedies there is.
Is it topical?
And it comes in about 6 different forms. So if you have access to it, it's topical. But actually, it comes orally in a tablet or a liquid. And I would have to say it's about an 80 or maybe a 70-30 rule. At least 70% of the properties comes from the oral. So if you don't put it on at all, it still works. But if you have an injury that you can touch, or a burn, acid, or a bruise, or something like that, you put it on both topically and take it orally. You'll get more action out of it that way. But
In this situation, you would say just
in this case, we would do both. Again, the oral is more important than topical. You can do just topical, but you won't get as much bang for the buck as if you do it orally, as long as you can touch it. Certainly you don't put it on an open wound, but you could put it around an open wound. And it really helps the whole healing process go along. It takes care of pain, absolutely, but it does much, much more than inflammation and many mystical things that we might even not be able to determine what they are. So it's kind of a mystery tour in itself. That would be part one, and I would do that with almost any kind of injury, any kind of break. It would very, very much work. Then there's a herbal formula that you took in Herb 1, and it's in one of the books that I gave you called Bone, Flesh, and Cartilage, sometimes called Bone, Flesh, and Sinew. BF and C, BF and S, whatever the case may be. It drinking orally and also put in alternatively topically is extremely beneficial. It helps ligaments build up even many years after the cases. So I've used it in people who were being professional football players, linebackers, whose knees are almost gone. And over a period of time, it'll build it up. We use it for hernias. We've used it for many different things to be able to build up ligaments. Those two alone would work almost as much as you would need to. But there are several other things that could be used. Whenever you're trying to build up that area, micronutrients would be very useful, especially the minerals. So a person might just want to take multi-minerals. But if you're going to take the multi-minerals, you might as well take the multi-tissue salts also. But probably one of the best things you can do for ligaments is bone soup. You know how you took the old beef bone or chicken or turkey bone right after Thanksgiving like this? You boil it, that broth is really good. But you can go to almost any Vietnamese restaurant and get ligament soup, or some of the Korean restaurants have one called beef knee soup, and really what it is the cartilage, and really what it is glucosamine sulfate basically. So it's the cartilage that's boiled into a soup. That kind of thing is absolutely rich for it. So are the seaweeds, of course, to be able to get the minerals in there. Then you want your multiple vitamins, especially vitamin C, would be beneficial for the whole healing process. Vitamin D3, of course, helps the absorption of the various minerals. So that's pretty much what you would do in general. Again, there's a chapter on that in the encyclopedia book, or even online that you could go through. I think it's breaks in bones or fractures or ligaments, tendinitis, things like that. Sometimes there's inflammation in the area. You might need something like glucosamine sulfate, MSM, but lots of times at the beginning it isn't. But if it's an old injury, you might have to work with those things. There's also a Chinese liniment that's particularly good called Zhengu Shu, and it comes in a red and white box. It was really invented in the Shaolin Temple for kung fu masters that were hitting each other with the weight of a freight train, as they say. And it's really good for healing breaks, things like this. The problem is it will stain clothes that's around. So you want to put it on and don't put a white shirt on it, because it'll seep right through and you'll never get it out of there. It's kind of sticky too. So often what I do is put the Traumeel on, 2 or 3 hours later put the Zhengu Shu, and then a couple hours later go back and forth. And Zhengu Shu is Z-H-E-N-G.
Z-H-E-N?
Yeah, E-N-G. Yes, Ernie?